Well, joining me on this discussion tonight from the BJP, Sambit Patra, Shahid Siddiqui, editor of Nai Dunya, also with us. Jaidev Ranade, former secretary of RNAW, as is Professor Rizwan Kaisar, head of the Department of History and Culture of Jamia Millia Islamia. Thank you all very much indeed for speaking with us. Jaidev Ranade, if I can begin with you. India's security establishment, is it ready to take this on? What is the accurate assessment of this radicalization threat in India? Are we seeing a growing trend, or would you say India is still relatively insulated?
Well, I won't use the term insulated, but I would say that it's not been infected, if I may use the word, with radicalization. But temperatures are rising. There are people who have sort of, I would say, developed stronger views. The worry in India among the security specialists is that there are attempts by agencies which are outside India to penetrate this country and set up modules here, yes, in order to train locals and try and motivate them. There are a few cases where some youngsters have been co-opted by the ISIS or by Al-Qaeda, but they are very few in number. The real problem is when these people set up modules here and then try and trap young boys here, right, young and impressionable boys.
Are you saying then that self-radicalization is not that much of a problem? Because we've seen instances of that as well.
Yes, I would use the term radicalization when I'm talking about Pakistan. And I don't think that's the case here. We are far behind.
But it's in, you'd say it's in India's neighborhood already. We have Pakistan on one side,
in the neighborhood,
Bangladesh
and I think the establishment is monitoring it very closely, because there are worrying indicators, but they're still just indicators.
All right, let me just bring in another thread to all of this. And Sambit Patra, I think it's very interesting that the Prime Minister said today in Nairobi, preachers of hate and violence are threatening the fabric of our society. We must be watchful of them. A not so veiled reference clearly to Zakir Naik, who is now being investigated for what he has said after Dhaka clearly red flagged him with two of the Dhaka attackers saying that they owed allegiance to them. The chief of the Hyderabad ISIS module seemed to have links there as well. So is this something that is now also being looked at as part of this whole trend of radicalization, if we can call it that?
See, Ankita, as far as the issue of radicalization is concerned, it is a global truth which we all have to agree to. Secondly, as far as the Indian front is concerned, we should not be shying away from the ground realities, but in the same way we have to be extremely responsible in making any sweeping comments, and we should not trigger any panic reaction as well. And first, let me open by quoting what Rajnath Singh ji, the Home Minister of India, had stated only a few days ago, that Indian Muslims would never allow the penetration of ISIS into India, because look, the basic fabric of Indian society has been harmony amongst the two communities, that is the Hindus and the Muslims. We have lived since so long together that it's almost an intermingled community. But there has been a shred of radicalization in the recent past as well. We have seen the changing trends. We have seen as to how a component of Wahhabism has come into India. And I believe this is a time that the moderate Muslims of India, and I believe Mr. Shahid Siddiqui would enlighten us more into that line, because I've been hearing him since about a few days. And he rightly says that it is a time that the moderate Muslim need to take onto the streets and to the various modalities of information and say that no, we reject this, and this is not Islam. And that's where we all have to stand together. As far as the government and the other agencies are concerned, they're all prepared.
All right, when you say all prepared, what do you mean? What is this level of preparation then? Because that is really what we're driving at.
Yeah, as far as the level of preparation is concerned, naturally as a spokesperson of a political party, I would not be privy to the intelligence agencies functioning nor the other departments functioning. But drawing inspiration from the statements of the various leaders, I would say, well, yes, India is absolutely prepared, and we have seen instances where people who were radicalized and who were trying to go to Syria, who were trying to cross borders on this purpose, who had fomented some kind of hatred in their social network, and based on the intelligence feed-ups, we had seen as to how people have been rounded up and they have been questioned, interrogated, the links followed and the module broken.
Okay, now Shahid Siddiqui, is that an assessment that you would necessarily agree with? Because here in the instance of Kerala, which is the most glaring example that's staring us in the face, you have 17 people, entire families in effect, wives, children, moving, we believe, perhaps to Syria, maybe Afghanistan. You know, it's the details are not clear yet, but entire families moving. And where was this scrutiny? Where were the checks and balances that they left the country, and it was up to their families to alert authorities before this even became something that was made public?
You see, nobody is insulated today in this age of internet, in this age of communication. You cannot insulate any country or any society, but we should not underplay this threat. The threat is very much there. We should not also overplay it. Both scenarios are dangerous. Now here we see few individuals have been involved, and I agree with the expert who spoke earlier that the real threat is not from radicalization. Radicalization we are fighting, we have been fighting, and we will fight. And I'm sure that Indian Muslims will not be radicalized. But just a few individuals can form modules. Those modules can take certain actions which may lead to chain reaction, and that chain reaction will be extremely dangerous in a very volatile society like India, in a diverse society like India, and that's where the fear comes. Otherwise, as soon as our neighbors are concerned, Pakistan has been trying to radicalize us, trying to bring terrorism in India for last 30 years. But they have failed totally. Indian Muslims were never involved with the Kashmiri terrorism. Even in Kashmir, it was those who were coming from across the border who were able to do it. It's only recently that a few young people have been radicalized, and that I think is also because of the globalization of terrorism,
but I think
globalization
that really
of this so-called
bring
jihad.
us to the crux of the problem that we are confronting over here. And Professor Kaisar, if you would like to bear upon this, what is it that's drawing educated, college-going engineers, doctors, trained people to this medieval ideology that is represented by the ISIS?
2-3 things that have happened in the society that we have not paid any attention to. Number one, the entire democratic system and the secular values that we uphold has not been able to produce the kind of moral goods which is important for any society to hold on to. And it is in the absence of any such moral goods being generated that people are getting attracted to extreme ideology. In the context of discussion on radicalization, let us pay attention to there is a global radicalization, there is a local radicalization. Look at the number of youth involved in all kinds of activities in the name of one religion or the other, in the name of Gauraksha, in the name of any other thing. And then you realize there's another kind of radicalization. So threat is internal, threat is external. And therefore, we got to really deal with.
So you are saying effectively that radicalization is not isolated to one religion?
It's not isolated to, but it is this that I want to say. If you look at, you talk to people, you see the kind of Facebooks, some of you journalists that you have been facing, the kind of comments which are made if you happen to take a particular position, and then you say, where is it coming from? There is a total disenchantment with the kind of system that we have been able to sustain all these years. And then you realize, contrary to the values which are enshrined in the constitution and in the founding principles of, that India
I think
has
that's
been
a
constantly
very important
compromised.
point that you're making, that it is almost a political radicalization in a sense. And Samit Patra, if you'd like to come in on this, I just want to bring up the example of Kerala once again, because that is our immediate peg for this discussion. Kerala has a 26.5% Muslim population, which has always been part of the political and social mainstream in the state. There is no narrative, no historical narrative of religious or economic oppression over here. Nothing that could provide a fertile ground for radicalization of the kind that we have seen. So what would explain it then?
No, in fact, what Mr. Rizwan, the academician, was speaking before me, I absolutely disagree with him, and I think that's an oversimplification of terrorism, and it should not be done, at least by accomplished people like him. Number one, saying that the democratic and the secular fabric of the country may have been tarnished somewhere, and that as an excuse for radicalization. I don't buy that. Maximum radicalization today takes place in Europe. Go to Paris, go to the other European countries, you see maximum radicalization there. Absolutely. There, this secular fabric, if at all you say that secular fabric in the South Asian countries are difficult, but the secular fabric there, even you have not questioned it. The academics there, you have not questioned it. The democracy there, you have not questioned it. So why are these people getting radicalized? Go to the incidents of Gulshan attack in Dhaka recently. All these people, the boys, in fact I would say boys who were radicalized, they were boys from affluent families. There was this boy who was from a politician's family. The other boys, they went to best schools available, English medium schools. So they were not away from the mainstream happinesses that are required by anyone. So why would they be radicalized? It is not about that fabric. It is about the ideology, which I firmly believe that we all have to rise up and say, no sir, this is not Islam. Islam is something beyond this. Please don't get pulled into the wrong Islam. I think that is what is more important.